She says her laptop Zoom won't open, but she's in on her phone.
Thank you. Dr. McDonald, can you find that?
Dr. Anderson's online. We just need to make her a co-host.
I did.
All right, I think everyone is on. I'm not sure if you can see me or not, but I know that it is 5:30 and with an exciting board meeting ahead. So I'll turn it over to you, Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Ms. Lister, are you present there and ready to call the roll?
She's here.
Reverend Williams.
No, I just talked to him 5 minutes ago, so.
Dr. Mickelson,
Present.
Dr. Morrison, not present. Mrs. Boley,
Present.
Mr. Munoz,
Present.
Mrs. Stewart Campbell,
I haven't seen her.
Mrs. Stewart Campbell,
I just got a text from her saying Zoom is not letting me in. Somebody reach out to her. I'll tell her IT is reaching out to you.
Thank you.
and Dr. Bonebreak.
So we don't have a quorum, it sounds like.
I know Dr. Bonebreak was on.
So Mrs. Stewart Campbell says, she sent me a screenshot of her screen, says waiting for the host to start this webinar.
And it sounds like perhaps, Mr. Gowan, you need to make sure she has the correct Zoom link. And although there's not a quorum, Ms. Cope, I know that you're on the line. Is it okay that we proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance and the highlights?
Ms. Cope, did you hear Dr. Anderson's question about proceeding with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry, I was waiting to be unmuted. And it does look like Dr. Morrison is on, or at least was on one time, so we may have a quorum, but yeah, we can at least do the Pledge of Allegiance and then call the meeting to order.
Okay. I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So we've got a flag on the screen. So if you could all rise and repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Lister, can you confirm that we have a quorum, please?
Let me call the roll one more time. Reverend Williams. Dr. Nicholson, I know you're there. Mrs. Boley.
Here.
Okay. Mr. Munoz.
Present.
All right. Mrs. Stewart Campbell. Mrs. Stewart Campbell, are you ready to get on?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm here.
Dr. Bonebreak. Dr. Bonebreak.
I thought I saw him get admitted into the room.
Am I still muted?
No,
Hello.
we can hear you. And I see Dr. Morrison is here too.
Okay, you can hear me.
Dr. Morrison?
Here.
All right, welcome back.
So we're still trying to connect with Reverend Williams. Is that correct?
Yes, he is the only person missing.
Scott, can you have somebody see if they can connect with Reverend Williams? I know he was planning to attend, so maybe he's had some technical difficulties.
Yes, we'll have somebody reach out for him.
Great, thank you. Next is the adoption of the agenda.
Move to adopt.
So we have a motion. Is there a second to move to adopt the agenda?
Second, third.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I don't hear any, so Ms. Lister, will you call the roll, please?
Vote is open.
So if everybody's in board docs, they ought to be able to vote on board docs. If not, then you can
Please say your name and
vote verbally.
Aye. Holmgren.
That's Dr. Bromberg, thank you.
Foley?
Hi, Dr. Morrison.
All right. And Mrs. Foley, that was an aye.
Yes.
You. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Lister. So the motion to adopt the agenda is carries. Next on the agenda is school highlights. Dr. Anderson, you're going to take over that, I think. So.
Absolutely. We are excited about our Challenge Awards. We have State Representative Ma on the line with us. And so as they bring up her photo, we also have several principals that are with us today. So as Representative Ma talks a little bit about what the Challenge Awards are for everyone that's watching on Facebook Live and on this board meeting link, as she talks about that, she will be sharing who the winners are this year. So we are truly excited. As she does that, we'll be showing the certificate that all of those winners received in the mail, but we'll have a screenshot of it on the screen. I'll turn it over to Representative Ann Ma, who visits us every year with this kind of news. We are excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Dr. Anderson, and I'm really excited to be here today. Our state board met by Zoom all day, so I know it works, and it's a great way to get together. We're finding lots of new ways to teach and learn and do things. But tonight I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here and to recognize and celebrate a great success story for our state. 501 School District is making a real difference for our most at-risk students. Knowing how much hard work and commitment goes into that effort, I am proud and pleased to honor 5 of your schools with the 2019 Challenge Award. Now, I know some of your new members aren't familiar with this, so I'll tell you a little bit about it. The Challenge Award is given out by the Confidence in Kansas Public Education Task Force, and it recognizes outstanding achievement and uncommon accomplishment based on the Kansas state assessments, graduation rates, and attendance, among other factors that lead to student success. Not every school is even eligible for this award. The schools must have a high poverty rate and a high minority student population. And with all the factors considered, only 100 schools are chosen statewide for this recognition, and 5 of them are right here in our district. I also want to thank the Confidence in Kansas Public Education Task Force for their vision in creating this award and for their ongoing work to recognize the hard work of our public school teachers, administrators, school board members, students, and families. We know how important it is to say congratulations and job well done, and it just doesn't happen often enough. But in the 17 years since this award was created, we have come a long way in improving student performance in reading and math. We've narrowed the gaps, and you guys have been a leader in that effort. But there is still work to be done. And that's why we're counting on the districts like yours to continue pushing forward. Our state board vision is Kansas leads the world in student success. And that's not just a motto. That is our moonshot goal. And with schools like those we recognize tonight, we know we can do this. I know all of you are working hard, and some days it must feel very thankless, especially now when we're learning new ways to teach and learn and doing some extraordinary things. I want you to know you are making a difference. So right now, I want to tell you which schools won the award in 501 district. The first one I want to mention is Lowman Hill Elementary School. I don't know, Dr. Anderson is the principal here.
Yeah, so we'll bring up her video. Both the former principal who retired at the end of last year, who would have been the person that helped get this award.
Right.
She will be on the line from Quincy. And also Ms. Sondrager should also be on the line. And so we'll give it just a minute. So technology team, if Ms. Sondrager, if you can show her video and bring up the Lowman Hill certificate, that would be wonderful. And then also bringing up both past principal and current principal. If they're both on the line, if you can bring their video up, that would be wonderful.
I can bring their certificate up, but I can't do both the video and the certificate. Do you want them to, do you want the faces or do you want the certificate?
I guess, and if you move the certificate, I think it'd be wonderful if Representative Ma can meet these principals as well to see Ms. Liotta and Ms. Sondrager, and any comments that they might want to make would be wonderful.
Actually, can you hear me, Dr. Anderson?
Yes, Ms. Wells Martin. I hear Low Hill. I keep saying
yes.
Martin, sorry. And so the principal who was there last year and is there this year is Ms. Wells Martin. I've jumped all the way to Quincy. My apologies.
That's okay. Lowman Hill is just a really great place to be. And I know that the staff works so hard every day. We are so proud to accept this award. So thank you very much.
Well, you're entirely welcome, and you guys have earned it, and you're earning it even more this year. So I congratulate you on your award. If we're ready,
Representative Ma, if I can ask Ms. Wells Martin, can you share what is your free reduced lunch rate, Ms. Wells Martin, and how many students do you have for our new members and for those that are in the audience listening? And if there's any one thing that you did that helped kind of meet this challenge, because Lowman Hill wasn't a Challenge Award winner the year prior. So can you just share a little bit about those areas?
Sure. We are about 86% free and reduced lunch. So that's pretty high, it's a pretty high population of students who have special need economically. And our teachers, I think that the real reason that we have achieved this goal is because our teachers are completely dedicated to taking every student from where they are at and taking them to where they need to be. The school really wraps around the students with all staff members getting involved. We have kind of what we call school mamas who take the students in and pay extra special attention to those kids who need that. So we're wrapping around not only academically, but socially, behaviorally. Lowman Hill does whatever it takes.
very good. Is it time, Dr. Anderson, to go to the next school?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Ms. Wells Martin. She is a second-year principal, so she achieved that very first year.
That's extraordinary. Well, continued success. The next school we want to recognize is Marjorie French Middle School. Is their principal here? I had Kelly Hoffman. I don't know if that's the correct person.
Yes, Ms. Hoffman.
Oh. Well, we want to congratulate Marjorie French Middle School for all you do. Can you tell us some of the things you've done to make this happen for your kiddos?
Absolutely. We have 483 middle school students in our building, and this is our second year in a row to receive this award, so we are super excited and pleased that the interventions that we're putting in place are working and hope to do it again. Really, it's just as like many other schools, it's a school-wide effort. Doesn't matter if you're teaching math or English language arts, everybody wraps around the child and does what they can to ensure that they're doing well. So thank you so much. It's an honor to receive this award, and we are just blessed to be the only middle school to be receiving it. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations, and thank you and your staff for all your hard work. There you go. Cool.
What innovations did they introduce?
What's
I'm
that?
sorry.
What innovations did they introduce?
We've really honed a what we call a morning boost of learning, an intervention that we've been using the last couple of years, in which we provide additional small group support for reading and math. And it's primarily done in our English language arts and math classrooms, but the rest of the staff then at the same time provides some study halls and does some goal setting with kids in order to bring those class sizes down for that extra time. So I think that has been very beneficial. Just the other small group and the attention to using the data that we're collecting in the classroom really help during just regular class time as well.
So there's actually a teacher in the study hall.
I'm sorry?
There's actually a teacher in the study hall then.
Absolutely. The entire building goes into either a study hall mode or an intervention group, and that's paras included. So
Marvelous.
So we'll turn it back over to you, Representative Ma, and I will say that Ms. Hoffman is the supervisor for all of the middle school principals.
Wow.
So we are excited. So in addition to being a principal, she's the lead middle school principal. So just truly a role model for the district overall.
Well, that's great. And, you know, the more leaders we have, and then they'll bring up teacher leaders too, and it just builds on itself. So thank you for all you guys do. The next school we had is McCarter Elementary School.
Ms. Cooney is the principal at McCarter, so we'll bring her photo up and at some point share her certificate. Is Ms. Cooney on the line?
I'm here, Dr. Anderson. Thank you so much. I'm so excited that we achieved this again this year. We have about 385 students, and I'd attribute our success to our dedicated staff. Just like some of my colleagues have said, we just wrap around and we treat all of the students as if they belong to all of us. Our staff is very data oriented, so we try to deliver instruction that's on the student's level that will help them grow. Also, I feel like we have open mindsets. So if the staff knows that something isn't working, they're very collaborative in nature, and they talk to each other on Friday mornings and work out a new plan. They're open to new ideas. We also have really dedicated parents, and that's a huge key to our success. Our attendance rate is usually at 97% or above, and that's thanks to our parents getting the students there. And also, we try to make school fun. We have marvelous Mustang assemblies and incentives built in throughout the week. And so we understand that the kids want to be there, and that helps the parents, and we just all work together. So we're very excited. This is our 3rd year in a row for the Challenge Award, and my 4th year at McCarter winning that. So thank you very much.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for that and sharing. Wow, a 97% attendance rate is just amazing, because we know that attendance is key. If the kids aren't there, they're not learning. So thank you and your staff for all your work on that. Very good. The next one I had, Dr. Anderson, is McEachran Elementary School.
Yes, Vic Williams. Mr. Williams should be on the line. You should know that both Ms. Cooney and Mr. Williams often have a 70, 80, and in some cases 100% proficiency rate in many of their classes. It's pretty extraordinary to see them really at the top of the state in terms of performance at both of those schools. I'll turn it over to Mr. Williams.
Well, you can see our flag behind us. Our motto is to know, to do, to be the best, and really having that laser focus, no matter whether you're a student, an adult in the building. I can tell you everybody in their building knows that. When I'm working with the kids, I'll start with the beginning and say to know, to do, and they can finish it every time. But we are laser focused when it comes to the state standards. And we actually have a data room that we've got all the scores from the past 5 years from our state math and reading scores, where we can see what classes, how they've done, and not just the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, but the last couple of years, we've also added the data from the K1 and 2, because we know that if students get behind or don't have a good start at the beginning, it can affect your test scores at 3rd grade too. And the other part I'd say is I've invited all the students in there this year when the Chiefs won the ball game, and as we were getting ready for state assessments, I brought them down to look at the data from our Scantron results and showed them what grades and what specific standards they had learned. And I kind of shared with them how that ties in with a great football team, where maybe they didn't have a great game last week, but they look at what went well and what didn't go well, and they focus on those things, and we don't want to take it personally. And so a lot of our students, all of our students, I should say, when we had our parent-teacher conferences this year and last year, they were student-led. And I think that is really powerful when students know where they're performing, what they're doing well, what they need to work on, and they're keeping track of that with the standards in their notebooks. I think that is what has probably had the most powerful effect on our scores and students continuing to do well. And parents are aware too when they have those conferences. That way they kind of know what their kids need to work on too. And we do have a great staff. I mean, we have a staff, I think, having that continuous people staying and being a part of your building. I've been there 20 years. This is my 20th year at McEachern. And we do push team spirit, just like the Chiefs do. We have a chant, McEachern kids, we do our best. We work hard, we never rest. We do our best for all to see. McEachern Mustangs, we're proud to be.
Wow.
And the kids know that. So I love our school and our students love it. And it's so important that they love coming and being there and want to be there every day to learn. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, that is so cool. Those student-led conferences, it just, not only, it gives the kids an awareness, but it also gives them ownership of
Yes.
their education. And by the time your kids get to high school, they're going to be light years ahead of others just because they develop that one characteristic.
You bet.
So cool. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
And Dr. Anderson, that gets us to Quincy Elementary School.
All right, here we go. So
Started at the bottom of the list.
I know. I guess I was so excited about Quincy's achievement. I know their free reduced lunch rate is probably one of the highest in the districts. And so
Wow.
both
That's great.
and Rager.
Yes. Oh, there we go. Hello. I am so excited to accept this award. Although I don't feel like I had a whole lot to do with it, I will gladly accept it. But I know Mrs. Liotta, who is here tonight, is really the one who deserves the credit because this is based on a lot of things that have been going on for years at Quincy. So I'm grateful to be here and be able to say all these great things about Quincy. And my job is just to continue on with that tradition. So Quincy is a school of about 220 students. So we are a very small school. I always say we're the smallest school with the biggest heart. We also have the highest free and reduced percentages in the district. So about 97% of our students are living in poverty or qualify for free and reduced meals. So that really puts our students at risk. One of the biggest things that we do first at Quincy is meet them where they are and make sure that all of their needs are met. We know that a student walking in who is homeless or is hungry is not going to be able to learn at high levels. And so we know that we need to take care of all of those things and then, and not stop there, and then go ahead and continue to teach at high levels. And so we have, learning at high levels. One of our mottos is that we remove barriers and we overcome obstacles. And so we expect our students to go on and do just the same types of things that anybody in our in Shawnee County can do. So a lot of our students may be first-time college students, or maybe even first-time high school graduates. And so those are the things that we're really instilling in our students now, is just to look beyond their situation right now and know their potential and know that if we provide an equitable education for them by removing those barriers, you know, overcoming all of those things, and then being able to get to that high level of instruction and learning, then you know, our students are capable of doing anything that anyone else in this country can do.
Cool. That's so cool. Well, the thing about meeting them where they are is so important, and how much more important is that going to be in the fall when the kids come back. Hopefully they will come back, because, you know, they're going to be all over the board. We just approved 501's learning plan on Tuesday. The state board approved the plan, and it's an amazing plan, Dr. Anderson. You guys have really you know, an aggressive plan to make sure all kids keep learning. And we're really impressed with that, and just wish you guys the best this spring. I wanted to come out and help deliver meals, but my husband goes out to work every day, so I've been like staying away from everybody. But you know, I just encourage you guys to keep setting high expectations and keep supporting each other, and just keep believing in what we do here in public schools. You know, you have the support and the gratitude of everyone at the State Board of Education and the State Department of Education. And if there's anything we can do for you, particularly in these difficult times, please reach out. We're here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Ma. And I'll ask is Ms. Liata on the line, the principal from last year that retired? And Ms. Ma, I believe Ms. Liata was in the district for over 40 years.
Whoa.
Retired, I believe. I think she was the longest standing principal. So is she on the line at this time? I'll give it just a second for our tech team. If she is on, to bring her up. And if she's not, I'm sure she's in the audience, perhaps either muted or just quietly listening.
Tell Mr. McDonald that the answer is yes. I don't know how to do it electronically.
So, Ms. Liata, was I right? Were you in the district 40 years? Is that right?
Yes, 43 years. And
wow.
Topeka Public School started young and ended old. So it's the, to me, it's the district in the state of Kansas. We're just, I think that 501 and Topeka Public Schools is just at the cutting edge of everything. And we have a proud legacy, and I love Topeka Public Schools. So I want to thank you for inviting me today. I just, as everybody has said, it's always a team effort on getting people, children ready for state assessments. And our grade level teams and coach and everybody just really works hard to prepare kids. And kids know what they're supposed to be learning, that there's intentional learning, intentional instruction. And I think that that's one of the things that makes Quincy great and continues to make Quincy great. So thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
And congratulations, Ms. Liata and both Ms. Sondrager. We are so proud of you and Quincy, and the idea of a school with 97% free lunch getting this award is truly remarkable. So again, congratulations. And thank you, Representative Ma, for coming out every year. We so thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me, and good luck continuing the year. And like I said, if we can do anything for you, please give me a call.
It will do. Well, for our board president and board members, that concludes the highlights. But however, we do have some resolutions because this is Week of the Young Child. And we have some young children from the Challenge Award schools who volunteered to read that resolution. And so with that resolution, Dr. Mickelson, is it okay that I proceed with our young people reading the Week of the Young Child resolution? And then one of our young students, our kindergartners, actually sent in a video thanking our first responders. So we have a few voices from our young children today. Is it okay that we proceed with the resolution, sir? And I think they've muted the board president. So we're going to proceed.
Probably not intentionally, I'm sure. Absolutely, let's proceed with a proclamation from these children.
All right, and I called it resolution, but you're right, proclamation. So for the proclamation, we have 2 students. I believe we have 1 student that'll be starting and 1 student that's concluding. For our principals, which student is starting from our Challenge Award principals? And it might be Ms. Sondrager's student. I know that I believe McEachran is one of the schools, and Ms. Sondrager is one child from Quincy?
Yes, the first reader is Brighton Graves. He is a 2nd grader at Quincy in Ms. Doyle's class, and I know he has been practicing hard all week. We even had a practice session yesterday. So I know he is on the line and super excited.
Okay.
And then McKenna Russell from McEachran Elementary. She's our student council president this year. She's a 5th grader, and her mother is a 5th grade teacher also at McEachran.
Well, how exciting. We're going to turn it over to our Quincy student to begin the proclamation.
Whereas the first years of a child's life are the period of the most rapid brain development and lay the foundation for all future learning. And whereas participation in high quality early childhood education saves taxpayers' dollars, makes working families more economically secure, and prepares children to succeed in school, earn higher wages, and live healthier lives. And whereas young children need skilled, educated, competent, consistent, and compensated early childhood educators, and whereas working families need strong regulatory structure to give them peace of mind that their children are safe and in high quality early care and education settings. And whereas early childhood educators need the ability to have basic workplace benefits such as health insurance, retirement paid, sick leave paid, vacation, and professional development leave. And
I'm going to interrupt for just a minute. You did an awesome job. Those are some very large words for a 2nd grader to share. And so as we're midway through that, I don't see the proclamation, but it's better to see your face on the screen and listen. We're going to turn it over to McEachran and pick it up from there for our McEachran student to finish the proclamation.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that Topeka Public Schools Unified School District number 501, Topeka, Kansas, does proclaim April 11 through 17, 2020 as the Week of the Young Child, and urge all members of our community to support efforts that increase children and family access to high quality early childhood education. And be it further resolved that a copy of this proclamation be included in the minutes of the Board of Education meeting, April 16th, 2020. And when witness whereof we, the staff of Topeka Unified School District number 501, do hereby affix the signature of our board president and the official seal of the Board of Education this 16th of April 2020.
You did an excellent job. Wow. I'm going to turn it over to our board members if they have a question or two for either of our young people. Before you ask that question, here's a little message from our kindergartner who also wanted to give a little shout out, but really for our first responders. I think that message is right on the screen.
I'm in kindergarten and I go to Jordan Elementary School. I just want to say thank you for all the doctors, all the nurses helping people with the virus in our city and all around the world. Thanks.
All right, so you've heard kindergarten, second, and a little bit of our upper elementary. I'm going to turn it over to our board members if they have any questions for the two young children who are joining us today.
What were you?
I'm going to unmute myself on my computer, but I was impressed by both of the young students and the kindergartner. But McKenna, because your mother's a teacher, have you been, how has online school gone for you? Have you had to do a lot of Zoom things, or did your mother spend a lot of time teaching you?
Could you repeat that real quick?
Yeah, I was just curious because your mother is a teacher and you're online with your own teacher. Have you got a lot of extra help from your own mother? Has she been busy teaching her class?
She gets extra work. do you get extra help maybe? A little.
A little.
Extra help.
I've always been impressed with McEachran Student Council because when Mr. Williams comes to visit the board meetings, he always invites his student council to participate. So thank you for your service to your fellow students as your school board president, or your school president at your school. And Brighton, you did wonderful job reading that. I can't believe you're only in second grade.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for any of these students?
No question. I just wanted to tell our two young students that they did an amazing job, and keep up your effort, your work, and can't see what great things you do in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Any other questions?
Yeah, also just saying, both of you are adorable. You did such a great job. So for our Quincy Scholar, I'm curious, can you just name like one of your favorite things about Quincy? And then the same question for our McEachran Scholar.
Well, what I like about Quincy is that they have a lot of learning in it, and now that I'm not in school anymore, I feel like I'm learning less, and that's why I really like to go to school now. I really like my new classroom, and I'm glad that I joined a new school.
Thank you. And our McEachran Scholar, how about you, sweetie? What do you like?
My favorite thing about McEachran is that we have great learning skills, and I also love my principal, Mr. Williams. He's very kind to us. He encourages us to work harder in our work.
I'm doing a clapping. I don't know if that's showing up on Zoom, but I'm clapping, both of you. And your and your principals and teachers and everybody at the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Does anyone else have any questions for McKenna or Brighton?
I do. This is Sue.
Sue, go ahead.
So I was wondering if either one of you have chosen what you would like to do when you grow up.
Go for it. I'll give you
Occupational therapist. Occupational therapist.
How about you, Brighton? Do you know what you want to be?
I would like to be a comic book writer.
Well as you both read today, I think you guys are on the right highway. You're going to do so well in school. And I'm so glad that you are missing your classroom teachers and your classroom education. And we hope to welcome you back in the springtime or fall. I hope fall.
Summer.
Thank you to McKenna and Brighton and their principals and teachers and parents who helped them prepare to read that proclamation. We gladly accept the proclamation for the Week of the Young Child, and salute you and hope you can continue to excel in your academic work, even though it's a little different than what you started the school year doing.
And with that proclamation having been read, that concludes the highlights. You may remember that we did celebrate a Senior of the Month at the last board meeting. At that time, she and her principal, they weren't able to attend, but they are on this week. Now, we've already seen the video, but we do want to see our student, and if board members want to ask a question of our Senior of the Month. Additionally, we want to welcome our principal, Ms. Morrissey, who has a gift for our student that she'll be mailing to the student this week. Ms. Morrissey, if we can pull up her video, she's on the line. She'll have a reminder of two to share with you about our Senior of the Month and then turn it over to our senior.
Dr. Mickelson, members of the board, Dr. Anderson, and the leadership team. It is always a privilege, a little bit weirder this way, but it's a privilege to get to present our Senior of the Month. This month's student is kind of a rare one. I've been in this business almost 40 years. She's brilliant. She'll be our valedictorian, but that's not the only reason she's sitting here today. She has a 4.7 plus GPA. I have never seen one that high, and we've had some high ones over the years. Additionally, I personally kind of like this, being a math geek myself. She's brilliant in math. She literally is beyond what we teach, and she took classes at the college level herself this year. She is a national merit. She was commended. She was a semifinalist, finalist. She's the first student in my educational career to win a scholarship through national merit. So I think that tells you how academically gifted she truly is. In addition, she is highly involved in forensics and debate. And I chuckle, I walked around one day and walked in when they were practicing. I didn't think that anybody could talk faster than me, but I guarantee you Irene can, and she can talk faster and get a lot said about things I wouldn't know much about. So she has done a great job in that arena as well. She led as a sophomore, led one of the marches that we did where students needed a voice. She had the courage to step forward. So you find her successful in her extracurricular activities, I think in her passion for community and to make a difference in the world. So without further ado, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you our Senior of the Month, Irene Caraccioni, and she has her family. I'll let her introduce her family who's with her tonight. Hi, Irene. Congratulations.
Thank you. Hello. I'm Irene, and this is my dad and my stepmom. And then my mom is also on a different Zoom call in this meeting.
Well, at this time, we often turn it over for our board members to ask questions. We saw an awesome video. I take it that you saw your video and Dr. Gray gave you a call and mailed you your certificate. So at this time, we're going to turn it over to board members who might want to ask questions of you this evening. And if there are any comments that you want to say when they conclude, feel free to do that. So I'll turn it over to our board president.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. That must be Irene's mother we see on the video screen now. Give us a wave. There's an acknowledgement. So congratulations to everyone involved in your education. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Irene?
Yes, Irene, where will you be going to college and how did you choose the university?
I'm actually still undecided. I applied to a lot of colleges, and so I have a lot to decide from, but I think I might be leaving to Georgetown or Berkeley. And the reason is I don't know yet what I want to study either, but I am interested in politics and government, and also economics and math. So both of those schools are strong in those areas.
Very impressive. Either school would be proud to have you attend.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Munoz.
Yeah, I just wondered, Irene, what has your experience been like with your last semester being the way that it sort of played out online? How's that been for you?
It's been very interesting. I think for the classes that I'm in, I can't say it was too bad because most of them were individual work. Also, like math class, you basically do the exact same thing and turn it in. And they weren't so much like lecture-based classes and more work that you have to turn in. So it's been easy for me to manage that, but I can see how it can be troubling for some other classes where discussions are more important that I had earlier in my years in high school. I think I would have missed out more if I was still taking those types of classes.
We're all hoping that that a graduation of some sort will work out for all the high school seniors, and so all of our fingers are crossed that you'll get the recognition as well as all other students that they deserve.
Are there any other questions for Irene?
Yes, I do. Congratulations, Irene.
Thank you.
And I just want to say that my mother was an assistant debate coach at Topeka High for a few years back in the 70s. Yeah, so I vicariously experienced some of Topeka High debate and forensics through her. So I want to ask you, wow, can you just make some comments about what debate and forensics have been like for you? Or perhaps like what do you like to debate? Like what topics do you enjoy debating with others?
I think debate was really important in my high school career because it's where I really developed some of the skills that I really developed some skills further that I was already learning in school. So argumentation and research and analysis of multiple points, those that was really helpful. Those were some things that I think the debate was really helpful for. Each year there was a different topic that was assigned to debate, so we never got to pick what we were discussing, but I think my favorite topic would I think my favorite topic was this last year. We debated arms sales and whether or not we should decrease arms sales to countries. And that was just a really fascinating topic to really learn how countries interact with each other and how there's geopolitical tensions in the way that we exert power to places across the world.
Irene, I wish you'd consider law school.
There's still time.
This is Mrs. Foley. And I just wanted to congratulate the parents on having such an extraordinary child. We know that student success is really backed by those parents, and we want to thank you for being there for her and encouraging her and creating those great skills that she needed in school. And you guys are amazing, so congratulations on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good job.
Irene, this is Scott Mickelson. I just have one last question. Mrs. Morris, you mentioned something you led your sophomore year and provided a student voice. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so during my sophomore year, that's when the March for Our Lives was becoming a national-wide movement. And my best friends, Jacob Gernon and I decided that we thought that there wasn't really anything happening in our own community. And so because of a lack of community participation, we decided we wanted to be the ones to foster that discussion. And so we were the ones that organized and then eventually led the march in Topeka. It was primarily focused at Topeka High School. That's where we had all our connections, and we decided we marched to the Capitol building and then back to the school.
Congratulations on this honor and your academics and scholastic success at Topeka High School, and good luck to you in the future. I'm sure you'll be successful.
So again, congratulations. We are so very proud of you. And as has been said, you are simply exceptional. And we're excited to see what you do in the next 3 to 4 years, and perhaps to come back and mentor some of our students. Any final comments that you'd like to say before we conclude, Irene, and move out of the highlight section?
I would just like to thank the district for nominating me as a Senior of the Month. I really appreciate the honor.
And you are so deserving. Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, Ms. Morrissey, you are going to be mailing a gift next week. Can you, normally we open the gift at the board meeting and you get a chance to see it. When you're decided about the university, often it's a gift from the principal from that university. But Ms. Morrissey, what is the gift, if you don't mind spoiling the surprise, and then as you prepare to mail that next week?
Yeah. Absolutely. Irene, we've been waiting for you to make that decision on that university so we could get something for you from there. So what we've done instead is we have a t-shirt for you from Topeka High School, because we would hate for you to forget us, and we do want you to come back someday. And we are going to give you a gift certificate that you can order something when you make that decision from the college that you're going to, so that you can both sport your past and your future at the same time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Good to see you.
You as well.
All right, thank you. And very nice meeting your family, Irene, as well. President Mickelson, I'll turn it back over to you. That does conclude our highlights for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Did I see Reverend Williams join the meeting, Ms. Lister? So I just wanted to acknowledge his presence for the record. I don't know, I thought I saw him join, and maybe he's...
I made a note of the time.
Okay, great, thank you. We're next ready to approve business by consent. I entertain a motion to do that.
So move, Scott.
Thank you, Dr. Morrison. We have a motion to approve business by consent. We have a second.
Sue Bowley seconds.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowley. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion for any of the items in the business by consent agenda?
The vote is now open.
Thank you, Ms. Lister.
Bonebreak says yes.
Thank you, Dr. Bonebreak.
Dr. Morrison says yes.
Thank you, Dr. Morrison. Mrs. Bowley.
Mrs. Bowley says yes.
Thank you. Reverend Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. I will make notes and fix it afterwards. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lister. Next on the agenda is Superintendent's Report. Dr. Anderson, we're going to discuss the kindergarten orientation first.
Yes, since again, it's the week of the young child, Mrs. Sharp is on. She's our Director of Early Childhood and Elementary Education. She'll tell a little bit about the kindergarten orientation that we just had and entertain any questions you may have regarding kindergarten orientation or registration. Ms. Sharp?
Dr. Anderson. Good evening, Dr. Mickelson and the board. It is my pleasure to give you a quick update on kindergarten orientation. We hosted it virtually last Thursday, April 9th from 5:30 to 6:30. The principals were eager to make this opportunity still available to our incoming students, and we created a PowerPoint that all principals utilized. We reviewed academic expectations and gave families ideas of things that they can do with their students over the next few months to help them become kindergarten ready. We gave samples of text that students will need to be able to read by the end of kindergarten. And we also provided a writing sample so that they can see how their students will need to be able to write in complete sentences and describe an illustration by the end of kindergarten. We had 255 families engage in our virtual kindergarten orientation. The schools provide school-specific information as well. They added some slides to the PowerPoint so that they can highlight special programs or traditions within their individual schools. It was fun McEachern, I was on theirs prior to the meeting opening to the public, and they had the music teacher playing the school song while families were waiting for the orientation to begin. So schools really went out of their ways to continue to make that a special tradition for families. I saw on social media parents still posting pictures of their kids attending kindergarten orientation. So we do have toolkits prepared that we can distribute to incoming kindergarten students, just as soon as we're kind of able to get that, food distribution back up and running from TPS.
Are there questions for Mrs. Sharp regarding kindergarten orientation? And again, registration will be opening up in a couple of weeks, and the kindergarten kits that she referenced, initially we were going to give them at the food distribution sites and on buses, but we think we'll just wait closer to when kindergarten's about to start to make sure we cover all families, and then have arrangements for them to be able to get those from those distribution sites. But with that, are there any questions for Mrs. Sharp regarding orientation, registration, or anything else related to early childhood?
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned, Mr. Sharp, 255 families that are engaged. Compared to other past years, is that on par with what we've had in terms of engagement in past years, or because of the fact that we did this virtually, do you have a sense that we're not reaching as many families as we need to in order to get towards that target goal that you're aiming at?
Good question. Typically, we have had closer to around 450 families that have engaged through kindergarten orientation. Principals have taken the PowerPoint slides and posted them on social media. I've had families reaching out to me, and I've been connecting them with the principals so that we can make sure that we're reaching as many families as we can. But the attendance was down from a traditional orientation.
Okay. Again, so I just because of all of us having to stay where we are, I mean, obviously that adds additional hurdles, and I just that we're trying to do what we can to reach families, and that everybody who wants to sign up their child, that we make sure they know about it. So.
Absolutely. One of the things that we've been doing at the secondary level that we certainly will do at the early childhood, if a student doesn't show up to class, we take note of that and we, give them a call. And so we know for those families that we didn't see that we were expecting to see, over the next week, our staff will be reaching out to them. Mrs. Sharp will make some personal phone calls, just as Director of Early Childhood Elementary. Parents as teachers, they're doing some virtual home visits, and they're able to introduce a little bit about kindergarten through that. So we'll keep you posted on that number of who we reached out to and what may have been the barrier, which it could have just been work. Although we had it later in the evening, there could have been other obstacles, since some parents are now working alternate kinds of schedules. So we'll keep you posted on the number, but all throughout next week, we'll be reaching out to those families through our early childhood staff that didn't show up that we were expecting.
So how do we get a list of who we're expecting to show up? If they're new to the district or don't have older children at the school, do we get a list, or is it all based on the student or the parent initiating that contact?
Well, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Sharp, but we have preschools in just about every school, so that's a list right there, because most of our preschoolers go to kindergarten. So we're expecting all those kids to matriculate. But Ms. Sharp, is there a list beyond that you want to speak to on how you monitor that?
Yeah, a lot of it is, what we collect during spring parent-teacher conferences and creating a list. We also get information from Mr. Kipp in demographics of kids that we should be expecting to come into our elementary schools and what their attendance areas are.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other questions for Mrs. Sharp?
This is Mrs. Boley. I was wondering if a encore would be something that we would consider to maybe reach more families.
That's a wonderful idea, Ms. Sharp, but as that's thrown out, you know, and we get through this COVID period and move closer to the summer, then you think perhaps another kindergarten orientation opportunity with new families might be something in order?
I do. I have had some interest expressed as well, and maybe even having an opportunity for families to visit the, physical school. I think that's something that we should consider as we're, have a little bit more firm timeline on our return and what that might be able to look like.
All right, so we will keep the board posted on what date that'll be as we promote that in the next couple of months. And then we'll let you know what our new numbers might be at that time as well. Thank you, Ms. Boley.
Could I maybe also suggest one other thing? I know for our 6th graders going to middle school, they have like a day that they can go to school before the rest of the school attends. I was wondering if with kindergarten, if we could give them like an hour or two the day before school, before all the rush comes in, to kind of give them an idea of their building and their classroom and where they're going to be going to bring that stress level down.
I think that that is something that we will have to really put some thought into as kids come back to school. Many schools host a meet the teacher ice cream social event prior to kids returning to a typical school year. So I do think that that's something that we will have to be thoughtful about and plan what that's going to look like and how to most appropriately schedule that and make sure that our kids have a really positive welcome back into schools.
Ms. Sharp, this is Dr. Morrison. This is not so much on kindergarten orientation, but I'm curious about attendance remotely that we're having right now. Do you have some data or information about what's going on with kids? Are they doing their work? Are they attending school remotely, etc.?
Yes, every Friday, the early childhood and elementary principals submit their attendance data for the week. Every school has a spreadsheet that includes every student in the school, and the teachers are tracking who's engaged daily and who's not. The mental health team is then reaching out to the students who are not engaged, and the teachers are reaching out to students who are not engaged, so that we have a really tight hold on making sure that kids are engaged, if at all possible. Some of that has looked like maybe they're just engaging through a Seesaw app, or they're engaging in the Zoom. So we've kind of had to differentiate that a little bit so that we are engaging kids in whatever way works best for their family. But I have been really impressed with the detail that has gone into the tracking of student engagement with the online learning, and principals and teachers really being relentless in making sure that kids are engaged in learning, and even working with campus police and doing home visits if we haven't been able to engage the family at all.
We
so
have,
I guess I didn't give you, Dr. Morrison, an exact percentage, but we really have had anywhere from 70% to 100%, depending on the school and the classroom.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
are there other questions for Mrs. Sharp?
Yes, I was wondering if that 70 to 100% is showing up on our most at-risk schools and less at-risk schools.
There is a slight variance across our schools. But then, like, I can use, like Sheldon Head Start as an example, serving one of our most challenging populations, but they have one of our highest participation rates. And I think some of that is due to leveraging those family advocates and getting creative with how they're engaging families.
Are we sharing these ideas across school buildings, across the district?
We are. Dr. Anderson has done a good job of holding weekly meetings with the principals. Elementary and early childhood principals have also had separate meetings where we've been able to brainstorm how they're tracking the attendance and then what they're doing. One principal found that texting through Google Voice, the families that they hadn't been able to engage, texting emergency contacts through Google Voice, she had found 100%. She had 100% success rate engaging the families through that method. So, and just, you're right, sharing that strategy with her colleagues and trying to share what we learn as we, dive into this new adventure.
Any other questions for Mrs. Sharp? I don't see any, but just before you go, Ms. Sharp, in case you're going to sign off, just congratulations to you and your leadership in the Challenge Award-winning schools, 4 schools in the district at the elementary level, plus the middle school is a testament to leadership, and you could see that from the principals who spoke this evening as well. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much. We have amazing administrators working hard every day to do what's best for kids. So thank you.
And with that, as we continue from there and again, as we celebrate not only our early childhood students and elementary students, we want to have some acknowledgement for what's going on at the secondary level. The next couple of items on the agenda, one is the strategic plan, and we're really not going to speak on the plan this evening. It's the draft in progress. We really added it just so new board members get a chance to get it in their hands and they can see the direction that it's going. If there's something that alarms you in regards to the direction, please let us know, or if there are questions that you have. But we're not going to go into talking about the plan tonight because it takes quite a bit of time to do that, and each department will be talking a little bit about their section. This is still very much in the draft stage, so things are being added literally as we speak to that Google Doc, but the committees have met, and as you already know, there's been work all year, and so we anticipate to be bringing this back to you next month, having fielded some of your questions with a really final draft document to talk through with the directors talking through that. I do want to move into talking about the other portion of secondary school, which is Topeka High. Topeka High has a clinic, and at that clinic right now, I don't believe that they are unmuted just yet because we're not quite sure what phone number they're calling in from. But with Eric Abernathy, I believe he may be on the call. If we can't hear him, we'll be asking that he emails in his phone number so that we can hear him. We will make sure that we have Miss Bowder on the line. She's our nurse coordinator who supervises all of our nurses. And Ms. Bowder has been active in this partnership extension with making sure that we expand what we're doing with KU. And I think Mr. Abernathy is now on the line. I want to share as context that Topeka High is one of the only schools in the region that has a hospital really in the school. It's a clinic, University of Kansas clinic at Topeka High. The University of Kansas, at no cost to us, agreed to form a partnership and have this unique clinic there. Of course, with schools closed, we know families continue to have healthcare needs that they can't get because they can't come into the school. With that knowledge, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Abernathy to share a little bit about telehealth services, and our nurse coordinator for the district is on the line, as is the nurse practitioner from the clinic. Mr. Abernathy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can. Can you share with the board, we have several new board members, your title and what you do with the clinic, and then we'll turn it over to you to talk about the telehealth services.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Anderson, and good evening to you and the board. I'm Eric Abernathy, the Senior Administrator at the University of Kansas Health System, and we're excited to be able to continue services not only for the Topeka High School, but also to expand them to the Topeka Public School District, to students, parents, and staff. Our plan is we'll be using the same nurse practitioner that we use at the Topeka Campus Care Clinic at Topeka High School, Bria Chambers. And our plan is to be able to provide these services for 30 hours a week via Zoom. And so we'd register the patients first, and if they had any additional kids or family members that needed to be seen, we'd go ahead and get all those guys registered. And then we'd set them up a Zoom meeting to meet with our nurse practitioner, Bria Chambers. And while they're meeting with her, they'll be able to get their prescriptions sent directly to the pharmacy of their choice. They'll also be able to get scheduled for labs at a lab of their choice as well. And we're also going to have a pre-screening question during the registration process to pre-screen for if any of the parents or students or staff, if they have any social support needs, any being domestic violence referrals, food pantry referrals. I'll also have my social worker who's working with the social support team at Topeka High School to address those issues.
So, Mr. Abernathy, I'm going to turn it over to the board to answer questions about the telehealth and when it starts. And then from that, Mr. Abernathy, while we have you and the team on the line, we did share with the board previously that you have interest in exploring the parent consent for reproductive services. And while you're on the line, perhaps some board members may want to learn a little bit more about what services that will cover when we are back in school. But before we go there, I'll turn it over to our president if there are any questions regarding the telehealth services.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson, Mr. Abernathy. So what's exciting to me is that this effectively expands the services that we provide primarily the Topeka High student population to our entire district. And so by this and other means, how will we, I guess my primary question is, how will we make other parents, students aware of this opportunity to go to Topeka High now that we're expanding it with?
We have been working with Dr. Anderson and Nurse Viter we've developed a flyer. We're working on a press release as well. And we're really trying to work with the school district to see how best to get this information communicated. I know we're going to get the information put up on our web page that's embedded in the school district's website. So we'll have it on our website, that information for telehealth services, and also working with the school district to see how we can get this information out to let the parents, students, and staff know that this resource is available for them.
And Dr. Mickelson, you know, one of the items, we'll make sure that we have some flyers at the food lunch site. So as we're giving out meals, which are thousands of students every day, and parents generally come through those lines to get those for their children. So we'll be giving the flyers out there, making a little TV promo for our cable channel, and just using all of our social media. We wanted to wait till we had this meeting, show you the flyer, and starting tomorrow, the press release will go out. If not tonight, certainly tomorrow. And then all of the other social media outreaches will be going out, including a robocall and email to all of our families. So again, we're excited about the possibility here to get health services to families at a time that they most need it.
I agree 100%. Are there any other questions for Mr. Abernathy from my colleagues on the board?
Are these health services prepared to provide contraceptive information.
That may be a great segue. The current services would be aligned with what they currently have been doing, which are not services that address reproductive services. But I'll turn it over to Mr. Abernathy and team to talk about the option of parental consent in the future and what other services could be added in the future should you allow that. Mr. Abernathy, did I say that correctly?
Yes, right now we'll be just maintaining the services that we've been doing since last year in February when we opened the clinic. We haven't even really went there as it pertains to contraceptive during the telehealth calls. I do have Bria Chambers, the nurse practitioner, on the line. I don't know if she's unmuted or not, who can maybe speak more to our long-term plans for contraceptive services and reproductive health.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Bria Chambers. I'm a family nurse practitioner by training, and we've had some discussions briefly about this very topic. I've created a reproductive health consent form that we are hoping we can use when we're back in the clinic. For our telehealth conversations with students who are 18 and under, I believe we're requiring a parent to be there with them. And so then if the parent and the child are asking about contraception, I don't think that there's any problem with providing that service. That would be obviously parental consent right there next to them. We'd have to figure out a way to verify that is indeed their parent. In the future, what we're hoping to do is have reproductive health consent form signed. Mostly, my goal is to help treat students who could be asymptomatic with an STD, like gonorrhea or chlamydia. And if they come to me and they are at risk for carrying an STD, then allowing for treatment or testing and treatment. We can test through urine, so it's not going to be some intimate exam. It's a urine sample. And then treatment is an antibiotic. So for those teens who maybe don't want to discuss that issue with their parents, but they are at risk, this is an issue that could affect their long-term fertility. And so I think it's important that we give them the opportunity to be tested and treated for that. As far as contraception goes, if it is strictly for birth control, I would then require an additional discussion with the parent before we would provide that service.
And so, Bria, that is the level of service that you're saying could be offered should the board approve a parental consent option. Those are the services that would then cover in the future.
Yes.
Bria, this is Scott Mickelson. Just so I'm clear, so the contraception would require parental consent. The treatment of an
and
STD,
a discussion.
Right. I mean, education.
Yes, so,
right. I'm simplifying it, I suppose, and maybe I shouldn't, but because I'm certain there'd be education along with that, and that kind of discussion would take place. Would treatment of an STD require parental consent if they're under 18?
Yes, and it would be basically on the admission consent form. So they have a few separate consent forms they sign. Aside from the general consent to treat, there's an immunization consent form that we can, that the parent would sign that basically says we can follow CDC guidelines on immunizations. There's a medication consent form that says if they come in and have a reason for maybe Tylenol or ibuprofen, that we can give that to them. And then I'm adding a reproductive health consent form that automatically consents for them to be tested for an STD if they are at risk. Now, the contraception piece states that if the student is requesting contraception, we will have a discussion with the parent before providing that service.
Okay.
And if the student does not want their parent in that discussion, then I will not be able to provide that service for them. That's what the consent says.
Okay. Are there other questions for Ms. Chambers or Mr. Abernathy?
I just don't know that there's many teenagers that will ask their parents if they can start having sex in high school.
Well, they may not ask if they can start. They may already be doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's why they are at risk, because they are having sex and they're not talking to their parents about it. So they're not getting care or screening.
You see the problem.
Yes, I do.
So Dr. Bonebrake, as a retired obstetrician who's dealt with this your entire career, what would you recommend if it was up to you?
Well, you know, if they're consenting to sex, they ought to be able to be checked for STDs and get on contraception. Talking with a qualified healthcare provider, getting parental consent tends to keep them from it. I know my wife mentor for 2 high school students last year about taking ACT preparation, and they both got pregnant, decided to drop out of school, and they were not interested in talking with their parents even after they got pregnant. And that's kind of been my experience after 40 years of practicing.
I agree, and I just want to make sure that I'm giving students all that I can service-wise, and that I'm staying within the board guidelines as well. So I agree with you that if students are consenting to sex, that they should also be able to consent to birth control. I also want to let everyone know that the conversations I would have with students certainly aren't simple as, are you having sex, yes or no? It goes in, I will go in depth with, like, is this a, let's weigh pros and cons to your decisions. Let's talk about healthy relationships, and making sure that they are making good choices, sound choices. And if they need help in other ways, then I will get them those resources as well.
And so for the purpose of this meeting, there are 2 pieces. One, we wanted to make sure that the board members were comfortable with the telehealth services, which don't include reproductive matters, because that's not something that currently is provided. We're just making sure that the board is comfortable with us continuing to provide services to more students across the district. And if there are any questions or concerns about that, we're ready to address those. Ms. Vouter, Nurse Vouter's on the line as well. And so hearing no concerns, then we look forward to expanding health services based on what we've been currently providing to all families. And I don't think I hear any concerns about that.
I have one question.
Go ahead, Mr. Munoz.
Yeah, my question is, we have a fair amount of students whose parents are Spanish speaking, and who the students themselves are Spanish speaking. And what sort of what do you have available, or how do you go about helping a student and parents who may be Spanish speaking as their primary language?
We have a translator service through KU Health System, and I can actually call them through Zoom and invite them into the meeting with us. So it would be a licensed, registered, certified, whatever the word is, translator to join the meeting.
And then we'll make sure the flyer is also in Spanish when we post it. And then any video that we make about the telehealth services, we will make sure that's done in Spanish as well, or has a Spanish overlap in terms of the dialogue that we post on our videos.
That's great, thank you.
Ms. BOE, did you have a question also?
That was my question. So
Okay.
I'm right in there with him. I want to make
Okay.
sure we reach all of our families, and I'm assuming we have a few other languages that maybe somehow we can reach those families. I know that that's a smaller group maybe that we could reach by robocalls or whatever.
We will definitely do that. On our website, you can actually pick any language, and whatever we type into our website can be translated through that. That's something new that we started about 4 years ago, or almost 4 years ago. So we'll continue to look at and monitor who's using these services. We want to thank KU for reaching out to us, and right at the time when we were starting our COVID crisis team to offer this. It's really exciting, and we're probably one of the few districts in the region doing something like this. It's very innovative. So both Mr. Abernathy, Nurse Bria, and all others who are involved, we thank you. Regarding the reproductive services, we'd like to bring that back. Remember, I shared with you a little bit about it and shared that it's something to be thinking about. And so we'll bring that back to a future board meeting now that you know what it is and what we currently do. And we'll ask for continued consideration to that parental consent form for next school year. We do have a little photo to bring up on the screen. And so on Monday, we'd like to offer as a gift to KU a couple of things. And I asked Mr. Abernathy if this would be helpful. I think they have a photo, the technology team, to bring up on the screen. And the photo is of some items created and made by, right now, a couple of staff members. We reached out to our staff, our COVID-19 team, and asked if they could help with making masks. And immediately the secretary at Stout, the administrative assistant, she might be on the call, Laura Allen, she created all of the she made all of the, and it's still making all of the masks that are cloth masks, and they're made based on the Stormont's criteria. We'll be taking some to Stormont, and we'll be delivering some to KU. And then the 3D mask at TCALC, Ms. Eubanks, who might also be on the line, she is right now, today, she was at TCALC making the 3D, using her 3D printer and making the harder plastic masks. She still has to get the elastic to put on there so that they stay on the face and the filters. So those may be a bit delayed, but to our KU partners, we want to say thank you, and we'll be giving you a handful of masks now and in the foreseeable future as a gift to the frontline people and as a thank you for being such a wonderful partner.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. One other piece that Mr. Abernathy mentioned was just the social workers and the opportunity to provide support services for our students who are separated from their classroom peers and teachers. And so I think that's also an important part of this telehealth component.
Yes, we'll be doing a pre-screening question for the students that call in and parents that call in for the services, just to see if they need any referrals to food banks. And we're working with the Healthy Homes Coalition in Topeka, Kansas as well on different referrals they have, emergency services and things of that nature for COVID-19. We're trying to partner with the Topeka Community Foundation as well to be able to offer some prescription assistance for students, low-income families that may need that assistance as well.
We certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes the superintendent's report. I did get a little message that Miss Allen, who made almost 30 or so masks and got them to us today. I understand she bought a sewing machine just for this mask. She bought it a month ago and then this came up. There she is. So normally she's at Stout doing payroll and other exciting things. And became a secretary there after her mother retired from Stout. So she kind of slid into that role for the last 3 years. Thank you so much for your generosity and the time that you've been devoting and to our effort here to help our frontline folks. I don't know if any board members have a question or two for her, but her new sewing machine is getting its work out, and we appreciate you.
I'm very glad to be able to help out. Makes me feel very good.
And you mentioned that you posted something on social media and you've been getting donations of some sort. Can you mention that to the board so KU knows that it's not just Topeka, but other people are supporting them from the background?
Absolutely. I joined a group on Facebook that is making masks for Stormont Vale and several other places in Shawnee County. And when I reached out and said that I needed some help for Topeka Public Schools, I received numerous donations. I've got probably 50 yards of material upstairs that was just completely donated to us. So I have got a lot of sewing to do in the next few days.
Again, we appreciate you and just your enthusiastic spirit in donating your time and talent in such a phenomenal way. So thank you for joining tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. So this concludes the superintendent's report. Is that correct? I think.
This concludes the superintendent's report. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any action or discussion items tonight. I do, to your point earlier, it would be wise to have that reproductive health discussion prior to when that form would have to go out, so that parents can be informed and students can be informed as well. So we'll continue that discussion at a later date, I assume. We're now at the point of our agenda for board member comments. So Dr. Morrison, do you want to lead us off?
I'm sure, as you all know, we had a tragedy in our family. We received a nice plant, and I understand that you had a moment of silence in the last board meeting. And then, you know, I don't really have the words to describe the tragedy that we've had and the recovery that we're going through, but we really do appreciate the thoughts and prayers that have been for my daughter and for the family of her fiance. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Morrison. Please know that those thoughts and prayers continue still, and we hope, I don't know what to say other than words don't express adequately our sorrow for your family and Mackenzie and you know, the loss you're faced.
Thanks.
Mr. Munoz.
I don't have much to share other than I've been just talking with as many parents to hear how they're doing in terms of helping support their students. I'm appreciative of what I've seen in terms of teachers, you know, doing what they can to help their students, even though they're separated, but as best as they can from wherever they are to the homes of their kids. Yeah, I know that we still have a number of weeks where we'll still be, you know, in our homes, but from what I see, you know, day in and day out on social media, on the news, I see an opportunity and I see a space where community members have chipped in a number of different ways to help other individuals. And obviously during this time, students you need our support in a number of different ways. So I'm appreciative of everybody's work and effort. I know we all play a small part in helping us get through this together. So I'm appreciative of everyone's efforts and hard work. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Mr. Campbell, are you on?
Yeah, I'm very pleased with Topeka Public Schools' accomplishments in normal times. And I think our district's strengths, our staff, our community has just been amplified during this challenging transition to remote learning. And I've just really been amazed. So thank you. That's all I have to say right now.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Dr. Bowman-Wright, do you have anything?
I'm so impressed with what 501 has done. However, these seniors have really lost out in a great deal of their senior year. And one of the celebrations of being a senior is the prom. And I was wondering if there's some way that prom night could be arranged a night or so before the graduation ceremony, if that is able to come off without social distancing. Which I realized if there is still social distancing, there was no hope at all. But at least when I was growing up, these formal proms were a significant part of the senior experience. And I just wonder if I wanted to ask Irene Carcione if that was anything she might look forward to, but I didn't think that would be easily answered. So if there's any way we could maybe consider or look into the possibility, maybe there's absolutely no interest.
If I may respond to that, Dr. Mickelson, I know that Mr. Dick is on the line, and perhaps outside of this venue, you can follow up with Dr. Bonebreak and others. There's been some dialogue. I know the students, their first concern was graduation and having some level of ceremony, and that's been a great deal of the talk. And but I'll ask Mr. Dick to follow up with you. Unless, Mr. Dick, is there some comment that you'd like to make at this moment? Knowing that you'll be following up with Dr. Bonebreak outside of this meeting?
I don't think there's anything to add to that other than, yeah, we can look into that and see what can be done and what possibilities there might be to be able to do that if we're even able to meet for commencement and those things in late July. So we can certainly investigate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Boley, you're next.
Well, I'm just so impressed with everything our district and our community is doing to help feed our families, our children in particular, being out there and hearing how grateful the parents are and how much help this really is, particularly with the situation with harvesters. The lunches and breakfasts are so important, and the people I've worked with, our community churches, how will we ever thank them? It just makes me so proud to live in this city and watch how everybody has stepped up and accomplished so much in so many ways. I also want to congratulate all of our principals that received the Challenge Award. I've been able to have the pleasure to work with so many of those people and learn so much from them, and they are fabulous, and we are so lucky in our district to have them, and you know who you are, who I'm talking to. You guys are extraordinary people, and I really appreciate that. And then I'm assuming, because Dr. Anderson and her staff always seem to be on top of everything, but I'm now starting to have some concerns about how our reopening of our schools are going to look. And what I'm assuming we're making plans for that. I was reading an article today about what it would look like in the future opening our schools. And of course I thought, oh my goodness, we have to really be planning around that. So I have so much faith in our district and looking forward, and that I'm assuming we're there already thinking about it. And if we're not, I'm hoping that we do soon. So what an extraordinary district that we have. And we are so very lucky that our students are participating and our teachers are going far and above. I look at Laura and her mass, and I think of the teachers that are doing porch visits to encourage their students to get on board with their learning, and our young lady who was the Easter bunny for a family that didn't have Easter. Our whole 501 family are just extraordinary, and I just thank all of them.
Thank you, Mrs. Boley. Reverend Williams?
Yes, sir.
Any comments?
Well, I would be repetitive if I did. I just want to continued appreciation and gratitude for all that the district is doing on behalf of our student as well as the community, trying to get us through this ordeal called the coronavirus. Also, I participated in 2 webinars offered by the organization called CRT and the Brain. One was called Moving Beyond the Packet, creating more culturally responsive distant learning experience through coronavirus, and the other one was Parents as First Teachers. If anybody would be interested in the link, I would be more than willing to send it to them. And also, I was reelected as Western Region Director for the NBC for 2020 to 2022. And that will conclude my comments.
Thank you, Reverend Williams. Congratulations on your reelection. And if you would, just send that link to everybody so we could access that. That'd be wonderful. I think it sounds interesting and appropriate this time.
Okay, will do.
Thank you, John. Again, not to be too repetitive, but I'm just pleased with the response of our district in extraordinary times, especially reaching out to those students who are not actively engaged in our curriculum online. I think it's important that we connect with them. I know our social workers are doing work, our administrators are doing work, our teachers are reaching out, sometimes personally delivering things to porches, things like that. So I'm pleased to see that effort. I'm just concerned about those students who are not engaged in figuring out ways to reach those, because social isolation can be difficult for kids and adults alike, and connecting via Zoom is one way to battle that. I'd like to share with my congratulations with Ms. Boley of the principals who won the Challenge Awards. I appreciate their presence in the meeting tonight, and you can see just from their words and their leadership that they exhibited tonight why their schools are so successful. And my congratulations to them. And then finally, just remind everyone to pace ourselves mentally, physically, and emotionally as we endure this time, so we can stay strong physically and mentally and be there for our students and staff. So with that, I'll conclude and entertain a motion to adjourn since we have nothing else on the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, so moved. Second.
We've got a motion from Reverend Williams and a second from Dr. Bonebrake. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Ms. Lister.
Can you just say aye, because Reverend Williams is
aye.
Aye. Bonebrake.
Aye.
We've got a consensus and a majority.
Actually, you have to vote on adjournment.
accepted, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Stay
Good
safe.
night.
Doesn't Robert's Rules of Order say you don't have to vote on adjournment?